So let us continue with our reading of Paradise Lost, Book 1, and uh, I'll continue from where I had left off yesterday. So let me share the screen so that you can look at the text. So you will remember that we had proceeded to this particular portion of the poem where Satan was calling his army of fallen angels, and now we will be having a description of the fallen angels, the leaders, the main leaders of the fallen angels, and each one of them would be appearing, and Milton would be describing them, their appearances, how they were worshipped by which tribes, in what parts of the world, and what were the rites and rituals which were practiced when they were worshipped by those tribes. And he is actually going to identify them with the heathen gods, that is, the pagan gods who were worshipped in the non Christian world. So let us read from here. We will be continuing from line number 380 onwards. So here, uh, as we can see, 380, 81, the chief were those who from the pit of hell, roaming to seek their prey on earth, durst fix their seats long after next the seat of God. So here, obviously, these fallen angels were allowed by God to move out from the pit of hell, from these uh, dark regions of hell, and they were roaming to seek their prey, just as uh, a tiger or a lion roams in search of its prey. So they actually were looking for victims, victims in the sense people or tribes who would be worshipping them because they were false gods. They were not the true gods. Gods fixed their seats long after next the seat of God. So they, in different parts of the world, they fixed their seats, or temples were built in their honor by these people who were led astray by their guile or trickery. Their altars by his altar, gods adored among the nations round. So obviously, as we can see, uh, these false gods were very bold and wicked, and they succeeded in getting themselves worshipped by different tribes, and they were worshipped by the people who were led astray. So their altars were built uh, beside the altar of the true God. So here we can obviously look at the number of the fallen angels who later came to be worshipped as these false gods. And Milton is now going to describe them one by one. And durst abide Jehovah thundering out of Sion. So obviously durst abide Jehovah. So these false gods, they were dared, durst meaning dared, to hold their ground in the presence of Jehovah. Now Jehovah is the principal name of God in the Old Testament, God of the Jews, that is, so the Israelites. And the temple of Jehovah stood on Mount Sion in Jerusalem. So thundering out of Sion. So it is Mount Sion. And throned between the cherubim. Yah often placed within his sanctuary itself their shrines. So the temple of Jehovah was there, located there, and the false gods, their temples were built at the same spot, and they were throned between the cherubim, often placed within his sanctuary itself their shrines, abominations. So different rituals which were obviously horrid uh, pagan rituals, or they might be called abominations, not the true rituals by which Jehovah was worshipped. And with cursed things his holy rites and solemn feasts profaned. So these gods, these false gods, came to be worshipped instead of the true God Jehovah, and his holy rites were made impure by the cursed rituals which came to be practiced by these pagan tribes. And the solemn feasts, the serious solemn feasts of Jehovah were uh, sort of made impure. And as we can see here, uh, and with their darkness durst affront his light. So with their darkness, obviously the dark light uh, kind of emanated by these false gods. It was not the true light or the redeeming light. Uh, so it affronted his light. So affronted in the sense, here it means the modern sense of insult. So the Latin sense, the primary Latin sense is, of course, confront or face. So Milton uses uh, this word to confront his Jehovah's pure light with their impure light. Now you will find a list or a catalog of the devils in imitation of the catalog of ships and the catalog of the warriors in the Iliad and the Aeneid, respectively. So, who was the first devil or the fallen angel who came before Satan? First, Moloch, horrid king, besmeared with blood of human sacrifice and parents' tears, though for the noise of drums and timbrels loud, their children's cries unheard, that passed through fire to his grim idol. So Moloch was the fire god or the sun god of Ammon, Ammon, and he was worshipped with inhuman rites. So, according to the Jewish tradition, uh, the infants were placed, the little children were placed into the hands of his graven image, the grim idol, and from which they were rolled into a furnace of fire. So the infants were sacrificed. And here Milton is referring to the human sacrifice, the sacrifice of the infants. And his image or the idol of Moloch is besmeared with the blood of the infants. And the parents tears. So the parents, they were crying because of the fact that their children had been taken away from them to be sacrificed at the altar of Moloch. And the noise of drums and timbrels. So those musical instruments were uh, sort of played to drown the cries of the unfortunate children and to his grim idol. So that passed through fire to his grim idol. Him the Ammonite worshipped in Rabbah and her watery plain. So the Ammonites or the people of Ammon, they worshipped him. Now Rabbah was the capital city, it was the only city of the Ammonites, who were largely nomadic people. So uh, I have made a kind of a PDF which I will upload in the LMS, where I have denoted the names of these. I have mentioned the names of these false gods and goddesses who were worshipped by different tribes, and their appearances and what were the rituals. So you will get that in a kind of a table form. So it will be easier for you to remember. So just remember uh, the names of the tribes who worshipped these false gods and the names of the places. So he was worshipped in Rabbah and her watery plain. So it was a plain that was watered by the rivers in Argob and in Basan to the stream of utmost Arnon. So these are Rabbah is actually called the city of waters. Uh, so um, Again, Milton mentions some other places. Argob was a place in Basan on the east bank of the Jordan and the Sea of Galilee. And the Arnon was the boundary stream between the territory of Moab and the Amorites. So all these are medieval, during the medieval times, these places were the abode of different non-Christian tribes. And Milton mentions these hidden tribes who worshipped these idols. They were engaged in this idol worship, and they worshipped these horrid, uh, false gods, and with these very gruesome rituals. So, first is Moloch. Nor content with such audacious neighborhood, the wisest heart of Solomon he led by fraud to build his temple right against the temple of God on that opprobrious hill. So Milton here says that Moloch was not satisfied with the worship he got from the Ammonites in all these places, but he laid by fraud, audacious neighborhood, the territory of the Ammonites was next to the Holy Land of Jerusalem, which is the Holy Land of the Jews. And Moloch was such a horrid kind of devil that he led the wise heart of Solomon, the wisest heart. So, the story about King Solomon. King Solomon was deemed to be, he was thought to be the wisest king in the medieval world. And by fraud, by guile, or by trickery. So, the heart of Solomon, who was the wisest of all kings or all men, and as Solomon was the wisest of men, his heart was the wisest of all hearts. So, what did Solomon do? He was led by this god, Moloch, led by fraud to build his temple right against the temple of God, that is Jehovah's temple, on that opprobrious hill. Opprobrious hill is the was the Mount of the Olives, also called the Hill of Scandal, and the offensive mountain. So it was the Mount of the Olives, Olives. It came to be called the Mount of Corruption and also the Mount of Offense. The Mount of Corruption and the Mount of Offense. So the Mount of the Olives had these names also. Now, because Solomon was persuaded by his wives, who were worshippers of this particular hidden god, to set up shrines to false gods. Now, there were many such false gods. There was Moloch, then you will find Chemos, then Astarte. So they will come one by one. And Solomon's wives, it is said that he had 700 wives. So it is a high number of wives. So they actually were worshippers of different these hidden gods. And they persuaded Solomon, though he was the wisest of kings, to build different, temples uh, to these false gods beside the true temple, the true temple to the true God, that is Jehovah. So Milton is referring to that. His temple right against the temple of God on that opprobrious hill, and made his grove the pleasant valley of Hinnom. So the pleasant valley of Hinnom, the valley of Hinnom lies south and southwest of Jerusalem, and it is on the border of the Mount of Olives. Tophet thence and black Gehenna called. So in Milton's poetry, especially during the recounting of the catalogue of the devils, you will find these exotic names. Milton was fond of these exotic names, and you will find these names occurring again and again. And we have to know the references. So Paradise Lost is a difficult poem on account of all these allusions. Uh, these are biblical allusions and the names that occur in the Bible also and in the Hebrew texts. So the pleasant valley of Hinnom, Tophet thence and black Gehenna called. Now I'll explain this, of course. So Valley of Hinnom, as I have said, it was located to the south and southwest of Jerusalem, beside the Mount of the Olives, which is called the opprobrious hill. It came to be known as Tophet. Tophet from the Hebrew word toph, T-O-P-H, which means a drum, because drums were used at the sacrifice to Moloch. So you saw when the children were sacrificed, drums were beaten to drown their cries, to drown the cries of the children. Or Gehenna. Now, the word Gehenna or Gehenna, however it is pronounced, is really derived from Hinnom, but it obtained a bad meaning when the valley was defiled and became a type of hell because of all these uh, sacrifice of all these children and these, kind of all these grisly rituals. So Tophet thence and black Gehenna called, the type of hell. It became a type of hell, hellish place. Now you are obviously familiar with the word Jahannam. So this word Jahannam is derived from Gehenna or Gehenna. So this is the meaning of this word. So this is the account of Moloch. So just remember that the first devil who came before Satan, who presented himself before Satan, was Moloch. And these were the Ammonites who worshipped him, and his shrines or temples were built in these different parts of the world. Now, obviously, we will go on to the next devil. So the next devil is Chemos, the obscene dread of Moab's sons, from Arior to Nebo, and the wild of southmost Abarim. Sorry. So uh, next devil is Chemos. After Moloch comes Chemos. And Chemos is the god of the Moabites, Moab's sons. That is why it is said Moabites. He was in fact the same deity as Moloch, and he was worshipped in the same way by sacrificing children. So he was by the Moabites. The Moabites called him as Chemos, and the Ammonites, they called him Moloch. Now, as you can see, the obscene dread of Moab's sons, Chemos was worshipped in fear and trembling by the Moabites. Dread, this word is an abstract word used for a concrete term. So the name of an emotion, that is obscene dread, is applied to this false god. So Just 1 minute. I will.